Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Japan's Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi won a landslide victory in Sunday's key parliamentary election, securing a two-thirds majority for the ruling Liberal Democratic Party in the lower house. This now clears the way for Takaichi to enact a conservative agenda on defense and social issues, and strengthens her position on the global stage. South Korea's ruling Democratic Party and the government held their first high-level policy meeting of the year and pledged unity and speed on real estate and U.S. investment legislation. Snowboarder Kim Sang-yeom won a silver medal in the men's parallel giant slalom event, giving South Korea its first medal at the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics. Kim's medal also marks Korea's 400th total Olympic medal since 1948. We begin this morning in Japan, where Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi led the country's ruling Liberal Democratic Party to a landslide election win, capturing a rare two-thirds supermajority in the lower house. The result gives her government sweeping power to pass laws and advance major security, tax, and immigration reforms. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Sanae Takaichi and her ruling Liberal Democratic Party saw a landslide victory in Japan's general election on Sunday, securing a powerful supermajority in the country's lower house of parliament. According to results compiled by public broadcaster NHK, the LDP won 316 of the 465 seats in the House of Representatives in Sunday's vote. That is well above the 233 seats needed for a simple majority and marks the first time the party alone has achieved a two-thirds majority in the lower house. Before the election, the LDP held 198 seats. The latest win represents a gain of 118 seats and pushes the party past the two-thirds threshold of 310 seats, giving it significant legislative power. When combined with the 36 seats held by its coalition partner, the Japan Restoration Party, the ruling bloc now controls 352 seats, or about 75% of the chamber. That level of control ensures the coalition can secure all standing committee chair positions and majorities across committees. The supermajority also gives the ruling camp the ability to repass bills in the lower house, even if they are rejected by the upper house, strengthening the government's hand in pushing through legislation. On the policy front, Takaichi has pledged to suspend the 8% sales tax on food for 2 years to ease the burden of rising prices on households. She has also vowed to revise Japan's security and defense policies by December, aiming to strengthen the country's offensive capabilities, lift restrictions on weapons exports, and move further away from Japan's post-war pacifist stance. In addition, Takaichi has been advocating tougher immigration rules, including stricter requirements for foreign property ownership and a cap on the number of foreign residents. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
So the Japanese Prime Minister has secured a two-thirds supermajority in a key parliamentary election over the weekend. For more on this, we're joined today by Professor Lee Min-jung, professor at the Division of International Studies at Kongshu National University. Professor Im, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, Japanese Prime Minister has won the snap election by a landslide. What's behind the sweeping victory, and what does it say about the public's view of the administration?
Well, it'll be fair to say that the success was pretty much, beyond the expectation. Of course, many experts, opinion leaders expected that, the LDP, the ruling party, can be winning the election. However, this much was, beyond the expectation. And most of the, probably the reason or behind this landsliding victory was. I will say it again, of course, Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae herself, her popularity or the public support for her policy direction or her leadership or her so-called more like innovative mind. Again, as we record again the last year's situation, she was elected as the head of the LDP, Liberal Democratic Party. However, LDP has only just limited the seat. I mean, in the Parliament Japanese Diet, so that is why behind again the election, she probably thought that again her popularity itself it can be changing the dynamics of the Japanese Diet, and she really casted a big chance to get a majority in the Japanese Diet. Again, the result was beyond probably many people's expectation. And again, as you explained also, again, the 2/3 by LDP itself, again, that was occupied again by LDP, which is the line, which is the enough line again for the revision amendment of the current Japanese constitution as well.
Right, like you mentioned, the LDP had a limited, small amount of seats last year, but it has now secured a 2/3 majority in the lower house. And Takaichi has been pushing a conservative agenda, including, plans to revise security and defense policies to strengthen Japan's military capabilities and sort of move further away from its post-war pacifist principles. How might this election result shape the government's policy direction?
Well, as far as I understand, again, the Japanese voters, the first priority is more about the economy. Again, the Takaichi Prime Minister Takaichi, her popularity was really the big reason for this, again, the landsliding victory. However, she also, has kept emphasizing, again, the revival of the Japanese economy or the stability of, again, the Japanese industry and or like more like booming of the Japanese market economy. As we all know, again, Japan, of course, has very important key technologies. However, because of, for example, population decline, of course, South Korea also is experiencing now, those kind of population decline or aged society or local extinction, those kind of things. But Japan, as a society, they experience all the things much earlier, more than 1 decade earlier than Korea. So Japanese economy has been in a kind of stocked situation, stalemate situation with a very low growth rate. At the same time, inflation was a big concern of the Japanese economy. Of course, the Japanese economic growth rate has been very much steady and slow. So inflation was really not a big problem in the Japanese society. However, ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, inflation became a kind of global phenomena, and Japanese society was not an exceptional case. So from Japanese citizens' point of view, all this, inflation, especially food, shortage of rice, for example, that kind of thing was really the top priority. So I would say, again, I'm not saying that, again, the Takaichi cabinet will be much more like silent about the security issue. However, I guess, again, the Takaichi's new cabinet will be much more focusing on this economic revival. And after that, probably, if they can earn enough public support, if so, they will, I think, gradually or even more aggressively move on to the defense security changes as well.
I see. So they will focus on economic issues first. More broadly, how might the election results affect Japan's bilateral relations with South Korea?
Well, I'm not that much worried about it. Again, of course, Takaichi, she has been known as so-called former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo's kid, or like herself. Again, that she also identified herself as a legitimate, ideologically successor of Prime Minister Abe. From that kind of, again, the background, many Korean citizens have a kind of concerns about her ideological background or her policy direction. However, as we just saw from the very recent, again, the latest summit between the President Lee Jae-myung and the Prime Minister Takaichi, which was held in the Nara, which is the old capital city of Japan, the two leaders' chemistry or two leaders' probably strategic calculations are pretty much complementary and compatible. So I'm pretty much optimistic about the relationship between Korea and Japan and Korea from now on, because again, the two leaders and the two countries in general, we have a kind of loose and the general consensus on the strategic interest of the two countries.
I see. And also with the United States, U.S. President Donald Trump had publicly endorsed Takaichi even ahead of the election, and he actually congratulated her this morning for the election win. And Treasury Secretary also called it a big victory for Takaichi. How could her win impact trilateral ties between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo?
Well, obviously, Washington's priority is a strategic rivalry competition with China, which is qualitatively different from the competition between then Soviet and U.S. in the era of Cold War. Now, the U.S., China, U.S., these two big superpower, they are competing, but for some other sectors like sometimes economy and trade and so on, they can cooperate too. So it's a kind of mixed situation. They can cooperate at the same time they do again to compete. However, in terms of again the future technology, definitely U.S. doesn't want to lose its superiority or technological hegemony, and of course China has the same position. So amid all the strategic rivalry, again the U.S. has two key East Asian allies, again, which are Korea and Japan. The trilateral cooperation will be emphasized further, I guess. So trilateral not only about the defense issue, but also about the economic security, for example, or like energy security, or even cybersecurity kind of new emerging security issues too. I think this trilateral relationship, cooperative framework will be again emphasized further by the Washington and by Tokyo, and I think Seoul will be responding to those kind of again the requests as well.
I see. We'll have to see how that goes. All right, Professor Lim, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
South Korea's ruling party and the government call for unity and faster legislation on real estate and U.S. investment tied to a trade deal at their first high-level policy meeting of the year. Our Buniran files this report.
South Korea's ruling Democratic Party and the government have pledged tighter coordination and faster legislation as they held the first high-level party government policy coordination meeting of 2026. The meeting took place on Sunday at the Prime Minister's official residence in Seoul, bringing together senior officials from the party, the cabinet, and the presidential office to align priorities for President Lee Jae-myung's policy agenda. Democratic Party leader Chung Cheong-rae described 2026 as the starting point of what President Lee has called a great national transformation and leap forward. Key items on the agenda included a special bill to support Korean investment in the United States, which the ruling party says must be handled swiftly, aiming to pass the legislation by early March.
The special bill on investment in the United States must be handled urgently by the National Assembly to protect Korean companies facing uncertainty over the possible reimposition of U.S. tariffs.
Chung said the party plans to move quickly to approve the formation of a special parliamentary committee during Monday's plenary session and push the legislation forward. Another major issue was the planned establishment of a supervisory authority on real estate, aimed at cracking down on illegal practices that distort the housing market and harm ordinary citizens. Prime Minister Kim In-suk called for a speed battle on legislation, warning that delays to the Special Act on Strategic Investment Cooperation with the U.S. are already affecting follow-up measures in tariff negotiations. On real estate, Kim said normalization of the housing market is essential to shifting the economy towards productive investment, adding that the government plans to establish a supervisory authority on real estate. Presidential Chief of Staff Kang Eun-sik also stressed the importance of rapid legislation, urging the National Assembly to speed up the passage of key livelihood-related bills, and pledging that the presidential office will also make every effort to move them forward. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
South Korean cryptocurrency exchange Bithumb has yet to recover assets equal to about 125 bitcoins, worth roughly $9 million that were mistakenly sent to customers' accounts. The company says it immediately recovered 99.7% of the bitcoins. Of the 0.3% already sold by recipients, it later retrieved about 93% through follow-up efforts. Still, some funds remain unrecovered, including around $2 million that had already been withdrawn to personal bank accounts. Other amounts were used to buy different cryptocurrencies, totaling about $7 million. The cryptocurrency exchange mistakenly sent 620,000 bitcoins to 249 users during a promotion on Friday evening. Each received about 2,490 bitcoins on average, worth around $166 million. Some users quickly sold, triggering a brief but sharp price drop. Meanwhile, North Korea had a Politburo meeting over the weekend and announced that the regime will hold a key party congress, its 9th one in late February. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
North Korea will hold its 9th Key Party Congress in late February, according to the regime's state-run Korean Central News Agency. The decision was made at the meeting of the Political Bureau of the ruling party's Central Committee on Saturday, with a resolution to convene the party congress in Pyongyang unanimously adopted. A specific date was not given, but it is later than initially expected. The party congress is the regime's highest decision-making body, with North Korea being a one-party state where the ruling Workers' Party oversees all state institutions. The 9th Party Congress, the first party congress since 2021, is expected to assess the achievements of the past 5 years and outline key domestic and foreign policies for the next 5 years. Eyes are especially on what the regime leader Kim Jong-un might say about South Korea, the U.S., and how he plans to enhance his political status to consolidate his rule further. At Saturday's Politburo meeting, which was presided over by Party Secretary Cho Yong-won under Kim's guidance, members discussed and approved qualifications of delegates to the Party Congress, as well as the composition of the executive body, Presidium, and Secretariat. Kim Jong-un positively evaluated the preparations for the upcoming Congress and reportedly presented principles and specific tasks for its success. Recently, North Korea has been ramping up construction of factories, hospitals, and public service facilities, apparently as evidence of accomplishments in local development projects. Remaining projects are expected to be expedited ahead of the Congress. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
And North Korea's human rights situation can be a contentious topic to raise while pursuing a pro-engagement policy. But an independent UN expert says it can be a chance for cooperation. Our Oh Soo-young sat down for a closer conversation.
Human rights can present an opportunity for engagement with North Korea, not a cause for conflict. That's according to Elizabeth Salmon, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in North Korea, during her trip to Seoul. Speaking to the press on Friday, the expert said North Koreans continue to face deterioration of their rights to food, movement, and political and civil freedoms.
The overall human rights situation of the last 10 years showed no improvement, and in many instances degraded, despite reports of a few improvements in some isolated issues.
Ahead of a periodic report next month, Simon reflected on South Korea's latest policy to achieve peaceful coexistence with the North. Published Tuesday, the policy spotlights humanitarian cooperation in a more dovish than confrontational approach to human rights. While backing the push for engagement, Simon stressed that human rights should still be front and center of any dialogue with Pyongyang. But it can be raised not as a problem, but an opportunity to improve the lives of North Korean citizens.
We cannot put left human rights aside because they are not only because the DPRK is a state member of the United Nations, it has a legal obligations concerning human rights, and finally because when we want to speak about peace, we are not only talking about avoiding war, but we are looking for a sustainable peace, which means that that peace can guarantee human rights for everybody.
Now there's renewed speculation about potential top-level engagement between the leaders of North Korea and the United States. And well, while there's potential for human rights issues to be addressed, is there also a chance of having the human rights agenda cast aside?
Firstly, I think that human rights must not be left aside. But secondly, I think that at least some key points must be stressed during any possible dialogue. Reunification of families, the situation of detainees, prisoners of war and abductees, the possibility of the United Nations to work again inside the DPRK and to provide an independent monitoring mechanisms.
Simon noted with optimism that Pyongyang has accepted almost 50% of recommendations on universal basic rights, including on women.
As the first female Special Rapporteur on North Korean human rights, what stood out to you about the rights of women and children inside North Korea and the unique challenges that they face?
Well, you know, North Korean women are very courageous. They used to work in Jangmadang, these informal markets. They provide resources for their families. Secondly, the majority of escapees going to China, for instance, they are women, around 70% of escapees. So their role is tremendously important, not only as victims, but also like leaders and providing information and proposing creative ways to help their families, to help their children. As a Latin American woman, I am totally convinced that any improvement in human rights cannot be done without women and girls.
Simon also highlighted the rights of North Korean escapees as individuals, not merely victims, putting them at the centre of designing psychological care and social integration. She also called for sustained coordination among civil society, governments and international organisations to strengthen support and information finding. Such efforts should be diplomatised, not politicised, she said, stressing that human rights, peace, security and development are strongly interlinked. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Hello and welcome. I am your AI Sports correspondent Arirang, bringing you the latest news and highlights from the Milano-Cortina Winter Games. Here are the top stories for today. A 37-year-old veteran on Sunday shattered expectations to claim South Korea's first medal of the 2026 Winter Games. Snowboarder Kim Sang-kyum won a silver medal in the men's parallel giant slalom at Livingno Snow Park. Kim toppled world number 1 Roland Fischler in the quarterfinals before finishing 0.19 seconds behind the gold in the final. This podium finish marks the 400th total Olympic medal for South Korea since 1948. Kim knelt in a deep bow on the podium after securing the nation's second ever Olympic medal on snow. South Korea's mixed doubles curling team on Monday won a third round robin match with a dominant performance. The duo of Kim Sun-young and Jung Young-suk defeated Canada with a 9-5 victory at the Cortina Curling Olympic Stadium. Despite an early deficit, the Korean pair executed a 3-point fourth end to seize momentum. It's the third consecutive win for the pair. However, a 5-game losing streak at the start of the games has blocked the team's path to the semifinals. High school sensation Yoo Seung-in on Monday ignited medal hopes in her Olympic debut. The teenage prodigy stormed into the women's snowboard big air finals by finishing in 4th place in qualifying. Yoo showed her technical precision, landing a 1,260 mute to lock and a total of 166.50 points. Yoo now enters the Tuesday morning final looking to push for a medal. American skiing icon Lindsey Vonn is recovering tonight after a high-speed crash cut her Olympic return short. The 41-year-old lost control just 13 seconds into her downhill descent on Sunday. Vonn clipped the gate and slammed into the safety nets. She was airlifted to a nearby hospital for surgery on a fractured left leg. The injury ends Vonn's bid to become the oldest alpine Olympic medalist in history. Before we head out, let's look ahead. Appearing now on your screen are the current medal standings and the upcoming schedule for the Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026.
The piercing cold wave is about to ease, with temperatures getting much milder this afternoon. Seoul began the day at -10 degrees Celsius, but by the afternoon, it will climb fast to 5 degrees. For the rest of the week, there's no need to worry about extreme cold. Most areas will see temperatures above seasonal averages, bringing more comfortable conditions finally. Meanwhile, the air remains very dry in the capital area and the eastern region, so along with strong winds, fire safety is very important. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 5 degrees Celsius. Daegu, Busan both topping out at 9 degrees under sunny skies with decent air quality nationwide. However, from tomorrow through the day after, rain or snow is forecast for most parts, while precipitation will mostly fall as rain. Colder inland regions and mountainous areas could see snow accumulation.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.